to Fresh Take.
You are listening to the Fresh Take Network.
What it is, what it do, welcome to Fresh Take, and welcome to the most anticipated 2025. Joshua Adam Marvin's not here with the Town 60 Dangerous and Devan here. It's Devan Seal.
I hate everything except for everything on my list.
And from SIF, the one and only Adam Diesel Power.
Does 2025 include all the stuff that just came out in 2024 that nobody was able to see, and then now you get to see it?
Like what? Like Squid Game and Wallace and Gromit?
Like
Brutalist?
Yeah, like Brutalist. Yeah. I don't know. Is that a 2024? Is that
I think I've decided for our year-end awards, anything that comes out the last week of December, that gets to get retroactively put onto the year-end review. So Squid Game Season 2, Wallace and Gromit, Brutalist, those are all active for year-end awards now, next year.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Making it, but okay.
Yeah. 2025, this is supposed to be the big year because it's, a year now removed from the writer's strike. I think as far as the summer goes, there's a lot more big franchises out in the summertime. There's some quality TV shows and whatnot this year. I think if you look ahead, the bigger movie year is 2026 as far as franchises. We're talking about some monster things coming out in 2026, but 2025 has some solid stuff.
Yeah, it seems like, at least I'm looking at my list, and it's probably 50 or 60% movies, but I have a nice little mix of genre stuff. I'm not all leaning towards one or the other. They're not all Marvel movies. And I'm excited for that variance.
Yeah.
I have a pretty heavy bent on this year. A pretty strong angle from all my things. It's predominantly movies, but even in that realm, it's pretty heavy one way. You'll see where it's going. I'm
A24.
You kind of we'll talk about it. But I feel very similar. I think something I was when I was doing my research for this and looking at what's coming this year. We haven't gone through Sundance. We haven't hit any of these festivals yet, but the indie stuff, there isn't a ton of like big indie stuff coming. Like indies with big stars that might blow up kind of out of nowhere. It's a little bit of a struggle to find these films. But maybe we're just too early in the year because all the stuff that like the theatrical release dates are getting eaten up by a lot of these like bigger budget or like mid-level budget things with like a big name. So I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but isn't there an Avatar movie this year?
There is.
Do people care still?
I mean, the box office will show they care, and I'm sure one of us will draft it in the year with the box office next week.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't make my list. I don't know if it made your guys' list at all.
Not on my list.
Well, it's weird to be like, you mentioned it like, oh, people will vote with their wallets or whatever. The box office will tell how popular this movie is. But it's kind of weird for like someone like myself with this movie. Like, I will probably go see it with my family. I'm very casually interested. Like, I really don't give two craps about the franchise as a whole, but I like going to the movie theater experience. And I think the Avatar movies are a good cinema popcorn movie going experience. So I'm technically voting with my wallet, even though I'm not really emotionally invested.
Yeah.
So how do you really track that as I guess if they interview me as like come out of the theater and like, oh, what's your cinema score? And I say, oh, it's a C+, like that's really the only thing that really matters, I guess.
It's like, it's what they used to refer to this, and now everything has become this, but it's like an event movie.
Yeah.
There used to be like 4 event movies a year. You'd get like a blockbuster at in May, maybe you get one in the middle of the summer, and then you get one like towards the end. But now like every freaking week there's an event movie. Like that's what they've made it feel like. But this is like a very stereotypical event movie. like what Dev's talking about, where it's like nobody really cares about the story, nobody really cares about the lore or like the world that it's in, but everybody's gonna go see it just because it's like a thing to do with your
Yeah.
family at Christmas, right? Just like it's a thing to do on Memorial Day, it's a thing to do on Canada Day weekend, right? So
I mean, it has stiff competition going against SpongeBob and Anaconda, though.
oh,
Well, that brings up an interesting point where and I was going to ask you a separate question. I'll bring it up afterwards. Avatar is kind of like catering to the lowest common denominator of fandom, and it's kind of like a very wide brush to capture a lot of different people's imagination. It doesn't go too far in any one genre or any one storytelling device. It's not overly complicated because it literally is a shut your brain off and see big robots, blue aliens, some spaceships, and some colorful plants and animals. And like it kind of just it like tickles our lizard brain a little bit. So
yes, to some extent, but I'd argue it's also like a very big technical and cinematic feat, usually.
yes,
Like anything James Cameron does, I feel like he's given up on story. He's given up on doing anything interesting in terms of like telling a unique story. He's like, all right, I got an angle. I want to shoot it in the craziest way possible. So let's develop some insane technology that we can then shoot this movie with.
Well, there was the joke too. It's like the second one is like we were with the water people. Is this one going to be with the fire people?
yes.
He goes to the sun.
The answer is
Yeah,
yes.
like-
They're going to the fire people.
Cool.
I would argue, like, I'm also kind of wondering too, like, and we talk a lot about like the hero's journey and stuff like that, right? And there's kind of like, what is there, 15 or 20 basic story archetypes that basically every single story ever written has kind of fits into. Adam, you'd probably be able to speak more eloquently about this. And so when a lot of stories kind of can boil down into like man versus machine, man versus man, the hero journey, as we mentioned with like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and whatever. When everything hits those very classic story beats that people have been telling for hundreds, if not thousands of years, is anything really that original in terms of story? Like what you're really pushing boundaries? And so to his point, he's telling like a very classic family-oriented hero's journey story. There might be some zigs and zags here and there with different characters, but in reality, like we kind of already know what's going to happen. But we know that was going to happen with a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't buy into that too much. That it's like every story's been told. If you want to like break it down, of course you're right. Like you go man versus nature, man versus man. Everything's been told, but that's a pretty like bare bones way of thinking about it.
It's really derivative. It takes away from the art form. I get that.
But yeah, when you're talking about something like this, where it's like story isn't as important, there's obviously a message he wants. How he gets there is less important. And his message is environmentalism. And it always has been for Avatar. So you know exactly what you're kind of going to get from this. But I think that it is that like man, I don't know what Avatar is. Is it man versus nature? Is it man versus man? It's a bit of a mixed bag. But yeah, it's kind of like breaking that down, being something derivative in terms of story, but then elevating it by the visuals, elevating it by the technical merits, elevating it by the experience, essentially, right? Like it's people don't go to the movie just for story anymore.
Yeah.
So there is value in stuff like that, I think.
So the question I wanted to ask you, Adam, and especially after all of our conversations about Golden Globes, Oscars, and kind of award movies, is the idea or the definition of indie now passé? Is it dead? Where in like you kind of talk about how every movie or lots of movies want to become eventized, so they're becoming spectacles or blockbusters or whatever, and then the movies that are, it's basically kind of become, you either gross $1 billion or you don't make any money, you do all the film festivals, and then what we used to call indie movies are now just the non-billion-dollar movies, maybe not even the $500 million movies, who then are just kind of geared towards awards. Like, is A24 kind of responsible for that, where they've kind of taken what we like? Midsommar, in my opinion, was an indie movie at the time, but now I'm looking back at it, 7 years later, and I'm like, is this really an indie movie anymore?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. I think yes. If you want to really classify them, like there's the what is it? The Film Independent Spirit Awards.
Sure.
They do. I think they do them in New York. I'm not sure, but they do that every year. And films like Anora and Brutalist are all considered indie films because they were made independent from studios, and then studios
Okay.
kind of got behind them and bought them and then helped distribute them. I don't know if A24 and them are like, if A24 produces a film and makes it, is it still an indie film?
Yeah.
It's a studio making a film, so probably not. But I think what has happened more is like Universal and MGM and well, like Disney have stopped making those lower budget movies, right? Like every movie has to be $100 million movie. So those are your big event movies. So they've stopped doing the $10 million movies. So then whoever's picked up those $10 million movies are then considered indie movies, kind of.
Right. Even though in a different atmosphere and different economy, they wouldn't have been. I mean, the perfect example, I mean, Matt Damon's talked about like the whole $60 to $85 million movie, like even something like The Martian.
Yeah.
Is not a blockbuster, was a relatively good movie. And they don't really exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But even like the indie movies, or I guess the awards winner movies, are, yes, by definition, indie movies, but then like also not, because they're kind of made for a very specific purpose and objective.
Like they're all studios too, right? Like they're all like, even a Netflix movie is not an indie movie. An Amazon movie is not an indie movie. You could argue that Neon is towing the line.
Lionsgate.
A24 is towing the line. Lionsgate is not an indie movie. And I know, I think Josh shared this. Was that at the Golden Globes? They had like the ticker.
Yes.
That was like, which studios
weird
have won Golden Globes? It's like,
weird.
It's like so gross. But yeah, maybe the days are gone of like a Pulp Fiction being an indie movie and getting nominated for Oscars, where those movies, even those movies that have a little buzz, still need a studio behind them, pushing them to get an Oscar nomination. That's where like A24 picking up The Brutalist after Venice, I believe, where it premiered, them getting that and giving it a run and pushing it is the reason it is where it is. And Brady Corbet said that in his speech just on Sunday, that when he was making this movie, people said it was undistributable. It didn't say it wasn't going to be good or it's not watchable or whatever. He specifically said the word undistributable, which was kind of interesting. So you do need that distributor or that studio to get behind you to now even have a chance in these bigger awards, it seems.
Well, it's almost like sports, right? The influx and the domination of analytics. We'll use basketball as an example.
Moneyball.
No more long twos. You're either shooting 3-pointers or layups. And it's the same thing with movies now, where you're either shooting for $1 billion and 18 sequels in a cinematic universe, or you're shooting for all the awards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then hopefully there's a spill off when you get to that award season.
Yeah.
But then there's Terrifier 3. Which is full on indie, right? Full on indie that's making moves. So maybe there is space in this place for stuff like that.
Well, it's almost like they actively went against the grain to become something that very few movies are able to do, which is kind of like mid-budget and also be popular, but also not necessarily take themselves so seriously in terms of like we only want to be categorized for X, Y, and Z.
And you can't have 20 Terrifiers in a year.
Well, and that's the thing, is so much of
You have
so much of this
one or two.
so much of this business hinges, or at least maybe we're kind of like in a post Barbenheimer world where that was such an organic viral sensation, the way that the market, like the way that people clung to Barbenheimer. And now anytime a studio tries to make something like that, it just seems so trite, contrived. Like you see through it 'cause it's not genuine.
There was Baby Ratu.
Yeah, like what's the point? No one gives a shit. Like, and then even like same thing with the popcorn buckets. Like we had one viral moment with a Dune popcorn bucket, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then everyone else killed it. And then something's gonna happen this year where everyone's gonna be like, that's such an ingenious, like the Smile marketing a couple years ago, ingenious. And then it just got totally railroaded by everybody else. It's like when Fox News complains about the mainstream media. Fox News, you are the mainstream media. But anyways, we got a list to talk about. I don't want to go down
we got
this
more to
rabbit hole.
talk about.
I'm going to have to put a mark on here for people to get to the actual list.
Oh, jeez.
So we're talking about like...
I like it. It's a good dialogue. All right. So our most anticipated list here. I will let Adam start us off. Adam, what's your number 10?
You want me to start? We're doing number 10.
Yeah.
I went with my only video game on the list because we talked about it a little bit, but like GTA, I don't know if it's on anyone's list, but I'm not putting it on because nobody is expecting it to be here.
I don't believe it.
But I put my only video game on the list. It's from EA, and I'm kind of excited that Skate is coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I haven't played it since like the first or second one, and Tony Hawk is always the superior skateboarding game, but it wasn't bad. And I'm excited to see what they do with it on the next generation system and see how it works. So I threw it in there, throw a bone to a video game. So I'm excited for Skate. Skate 4 or just Skate? I don't know what they're calling it.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. The problem with the game stuff this year is you mentioned GTA. There's a game for me with Judas that's on my honorable mention by Ken Levine, who made BioShock. I think we've seen with the crunch in the past. Interstellar, the new Naughty Dog game I've seen. Oh, it's 2025. And some people's lists, like me and Devan laughed before. I'm like, not a chance. I think these studios now will not put out a guaranteed date until they know for sure, because of what happened with Cyberpunk and what happened with Last of Us 2 with the other studios, but the major crunch that both of them had to do afterwards. So it's just better to put 2025 or not do anything at all.
I'm going to push back on that for a second.
Soon.
I don't think it has anything to do with the crunch. Corporations and shareholders do not give a shit about the people who grind and give their lives and souls to make these games over a period of years. It's two things. It's the publicity of the crunch, and B, I think to your point, it's really, to Josh's point about Cyberpunk and other games, consumers are now really tired of releasing games that are really broken. You need a day one patch or like a 6-month patch to fix games. Like when we see Concord, Suicide Kill the Justice League, just these broken ass janky games being put out there for shovelware, I think people are trying to avoid that as best as possible.
Yeah, there's that too. But Skate looks good.
Should be fun. We'll see.
Dev, you're number 10.
I'm going anime with Lazarus, the new show by Shinichiro Watanabe, who made Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo. Okay. It's his next one. Yeah, exactly. It's like there's very few anime people that I know by name. He's one of them. It's coming out. So it's number 10.
When you mention Cowboy Bebop, it's kind of a level to live up to, because for casuals like me, when you jump into anime, right? Like most casual anime fans have seen Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would jump in just because of his connection to that.
Yeah. Well, it's the show to get people into the genre.
My number 10 is the SNL 50th anniversary show.
Nice.
It's kind of an honorable mention. They're doing a 4-part SNL documentary connected to it as well over the last 50 years. When they did the 40th, it was really fun. And just, the fact to think that this show has lasted 50 years is pretty crazy. Especially you go look at 85. I think that's the Robert Downey year when they were really, really close to being canceled. And you look at all the people that have came from there. It's always this kind of celebrity smorgasbord, all in one room, all kind of putting good things towards comedy. And it's the 40th was really, really fun. I mean, you had the great moment in that when Eddie came back to SNL. And we'll see what we can get from the 50th. But I mean, it's unfortunate there's some people that can't be around for it, like Farley and Belushi and others like that. But it should be a really good show, and you're going to get a lot of some of the all-time guests and someone that's been watching SNL since I was a kid. It means a lot that it did make it to 50, and then we'll kind of see what happens if Lauren is going to give up the reins or if he's going to ride or die with this thing.
Got to pull it out of his cold, dead hands.
There's been some talks that maybe Tina Fey would take it over. Maybe Seth Meyers would take it over, but it's sounding more and more like Lauren. This is it. And then the question too is Keenan going to finally announce that he's done with SNL after the 50th?
No way. Never look a gift horse in the mouth, man.
Yeah, where's he going if he's not on SNL?
Well, he had his own show that got canceled in the same time he was on SNL.
I think exactly.
I'm not a huge SNL guy, as you know, but I don't see somebody like Tina Fey jumping in and taking the reins. Somebody who's like already quite successful. You need somebody who's like more of a behind the scenes person, right? Mm. Somebody who's maybe been working at SNL for a long time.
Colin Jost is the other one I've heard.
But he's already a thing. Like he's already up, and he's a performer, and he's like, like you need a producer. Like you need someone who is like a longtime producer, knows television, knows comedy, but doesn't really have the interest in being in front of the camera. And this is their project. Like this is pretty much it. Like you can do some things on the side, but like somebody like Tina Fey I don't think she wants to just be like,
it's a big responsibility,
have that job, right? Like you want to do other things. Like that's the reason a lot of people get into this like career or this industry is so you can like dabble in different things. So getting stuck in SNL is tough.
I think the question too is 50. I mean, when 40 happened, you knew they were going to get to 50. The question is now, will they get to 60? Is there a room in the modern era now for SNL to continue? You know, when the election happens, that's when you really want to kind of see what SNL happens. And their average is pretty good. They don't go as viral from some stuff. I mean, one of the best skits they stole from Joel Javier about 2 years ago. And I mean, Joel was actually pretty good about how he handled the whole thing, but it was like bar for bar ripped off from Joel.
I mean, it's still a breeding ground for young artists, young writers, young performers. I think it just needs to switch to the streaming era, get off television. It'll get snapped up by, I don't know, is Peacock still around?
It's probably it would go on Peacock. I can't imagine leaving NBC
every Saturday night live. Put it on at 8:00 and you watch it, and then it's up there, and you can watch it later too. Like, just embrace that new era, and then make it something like that. I think it can stick around.
Absolutely. By the way, too, when we do this, if you have this somewhere else in your list that somebody else has, just say that you have it, and then we can kind of just say like, oh yeah, that was my number, whatever. All right, Dev, you're number 9.
Let's go up and down the list really quickly. I actually did research, so it's just more of what's my 9th most exciting thing. I'm gonna go Mickey 17. It's partly because of the time frame it's coming out, like within 6 weeks or something like that.
And I didn't put Mickey 17 or Ballerina on my list this year because they were on there last year and didn't make it. So Mickey 17 would have been on here, but it was on there last year, so it doesn't get a second round.
See, I was going on it last year. I did a lot in terms of like looking at people and projects and announcements and things like that. But now we got a trailer for Mickey 17, and a trailer for Ballerina, so I actually have something tangible to look forward to. Mm-hmm. That's why it's a number 9. Like I can wait for it, but I'm also like cautiously optimistic about it. I'm also like becoming a Robert Pattinson fan after the Batman. Mm-hmm. So it's time for him to shine, I think, a little bit. So yeah, it's just just looking forward to it.
Nice.
It did get delayed after the trailer came out, so there's no guarantees, Dev.
What's going on with this movie? Why is it getting so delayed all the time?
Yeah, I think there's some stuff happening in the post that's happened with this film. I think it's way weirder than anybody was expecting it to be. I think the studio was like, okay, we got the guy who won the Oscar, so whatever he wants to do, it's going to be an Oscar movie. And then he makes it, and it's like, oh wait, this is way too weird. This is way more different. Like, it was a genre movie, Parasite, you might say, but this is like a genre movie, and it's quite silly from the trailer. That I don't think they know what to do with it. I think the studio's struggling. Is it Warner? It's Warner Brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, classic Warner Brothers, just over analyzing the release of it. But like, I think they're struggling to figure out what the heck this is, when they should have just not balked at it and just put it out and let people decide. But they're over analyzing it.
Yeah. I mean, the concept is awesome. I like the idea of the concept. I mean, as like one of my favorite concepts of anything with cloning, or it's always something I'm really interested in. And Patterson's done a good job, and having Bong Joon-ho connected to it, I'm really excited for it. But the delays are getting concerning.
Yeah, it's very similar to Moon. You ever see Moon?
Yes.
Rockwell?
Yes.
Friggin' love Moon.
Kind of similar vibes, but definitely way more wacky.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like if people are expecting a commentary on class or something like that, and then Bong Joon-ho's like, I'm going to talk about like the ethics of animal testing. And it's like, people are like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
In a zany way.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go next. My number 9 is White Lotus. We've had 2 awesome seasons with this. I mean, I think we can maybe do one more season of this, because it is getting kind of crime of the week type of show, but it's still an enjoyable TV. It's like, hey, let's get a solid cast, put them in paradise. It's a cold winter night. You get to be in Thailand for an hour. So you get to kind of be there, and then kind of get to solve a murder. So Mike White has got the formula down pat. So I'm not going to complain with the formula that he's got going, and look forward to another season. I mean, it'll be time to get Crave again. And why you have HBO or Max is because of the order of some of these shows that Max has coming out. And White Lotus, for the first 2 seasons, I thought season 2 delivered even more than season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate Jennifer Coolidge won't be a part of it, because she was a highlight of the White Lotus seasons, but still looking forward to it. It's an absolutely stacked cast. It's got Michelle Monaghan as well, which anything Michelle Monaghan's in, I am in.
I thought Coolidge was even better in season 2 than season 1.
Oh yeah, way better.
He's fucking his uncle.
Yeah, that was great.
I forgot, like, it's been on my list because like you see the advertisements for it. I just forgot to put it on my list, but I definitely
Walter Goggins, Leslie Bibb, Jason Isaac, Carrie Coon, Parker Posey, which we need more Parker Posey and stuff, please.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was really the one that I never watched season 2. I wasn't crazy about season 1. And so I was like, probably won't watch season 3, but Parker Posey announcement was kind of like, maybe. I like Parker Posey a lot.
I love Parker Posey. I need her in more things. Wasn't she in Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
She was.
Yeah, she was one of the highlights of it. So yeah, I have White Lotus at 9. What about you, Adam?
At 9, I also have a TV show. I have one of 2 TV shows, and then I guess not 7 movies on this list. Yeah. I don't know what studio this is. I was trying to look it up, but it's called The Studio, and it's.
I had that on my honorable mention.
Yes,
this is with Catherine O'Hare and Seth Rogen.
The Seth Rogen show. It sounds really interesting. It sounds really fun. It's like old Hollywood transferring into the world of streaming, but then it's kind of like Curb. And it's got Catherine O'Hara, Catherine Hahn, and then like Ron Howard and Martin Scorsese as probably themselves. Like, it's got like guest cameo type stuff.
Yeah,
I think, is it Apple?
Yes, it's Apple.
Okay.
Apple, yeah.
So I'm just interested in something that feels a little fun and fresh. And I think Seth Rogen is shifting into a part of his career where he could do some interesting things as well.
He doesn't miss lately, man. He revived Turtles. The Boys, I think, is fine. But everything he does, like, there's nothing he does, and it's terrible, right? From doing Invincible to Turtles to that to then even some of the other studio stuff. The show that he had, forgetting the actress that he was with, Rose Byrne, that he had in Apple, was really fun, really good.
Oh.
Stuff doesn't really miss in any of these, and the cast associate. This just missed out. I had this at like 11 or 12, but and you know the chemistry that him and O'Hare had at the Golden Globes was phenomenal.
I had that on my honorable mentions as well. I'm kind of unabashedly a Seth Rogen fan, not because I necessarily love all of his output, because I appreciate his artistry, if you will. And I appreciate his like, and what it seems to be is like a really genuine sense of like, I watched a fuck ton of movies as a kid. I did some stand-up comedy, and I'm kind of marrying the two together. And it's like, that's kind of all you need. Like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. And I think that he does a good job of like keeping all of his projects relatively grounded in that aspect.
He's just a cool, funny guy, and you just want to see him continue to do cool, funny projects. Whether they're all like masterpieces or whether they hit or not, it's just like happy for him that it's still like rolling, and you're
100%. Yeah, love it.
Number 8 for me, like I said to Devan, it ain't a list for me unless I do kind of a tie on one of them. It's the Marvel section. Sorry to Captain America that didn't get put into the tie. But I went Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts. Fantastic Four, here we go. This is why one of the reasons when Fox got purchased by Disney, people were like, okay, Fantastic Four is finally going to be good. Plus they have the X-Men. I'm way more excited about Thunderbolts. Fantastic Four is kind of an asterisk next to it. Thunderbolts looks legit really, really good. You're putting a lot of fun characters next to it, getting Florence Pugh and Sebastian Stan, obviously just tremendous. And David Harbour as Red Guardian is awesome. Getting the Sentry as part of this, which is a really OP character. So we'll see how Marvel's able to handle that. But I think when that trailer dropped, we talked about it in the year in review. I think it shocked a lot of people because I think at first when it came out, the Thunderbolts trailer, you're like, okay, we'll see what happens. And then the trailer came, I was like, this looks like if I were them, I wouldn't even release another trailer for Thunderbolts. I would just leave it with that one trailer because that one trailer was good enough to sell it, specifically being in the classic opening May date for Marvel. It knocked it out of the park. I'm really, really excited for Thunderbolts. Fantastic Four. I just want them to get it right because it's such a great comic. There's such great lore and everything like that. I really hope that they nail it, but Thunderbolts I'm really, really excited for.
Yeah, I'm not really crazy about either of these, but that Thunderbolts trailer, once it played, I can't remember what movie I went to see and it played the first time, you could like feel people in the audience being like pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last time I was in a cinema and there was a Marvel trailer and people didn't like groan at it. So yeah, maybe you're right. There's something with this Thunderbolts movie.
It's on my list as well. I have yet to figure out space for it, but I completely agree with everything you said, Josh. Like, one of the things that I've grown to appreciate about the MCU, which I think they've actually lost track of, is I like when they pick up or the start of a movie, are the heroes having to readjust to daily life or having adjusted back to daily life? They're not always a hero 24/7. And them kind of balancing or towing the line between an ordinary person and then someone with special abilities. Yeah. That's all I want out of all these characters. And then for them to all kind of be like, we did bad things. Like, we're all normal people, but have done bad things. That's going to be a nice little interesting twist.
I think the only good thing about this What If season was David Harbour has really figured out this Red Guardian character. And there's this really interesting connection with a lot of these characters too, of like, he kind of got the super soldier serum, and why was he not the big star, but it was the Winter Soldier that got the love from Russia, right? And he was just kind of this outcast. So there's kind of that connection that he's going to have with Bucky there, and same with Yolanda having what she's going to be butting heads, obviously, with Red Guardian, kind of being her adopted father. And then, getting interested to see, can we reassess Taskmaster to be the character that we know Taskmaster can be? And I'm interested to see Ghost again, which I thought is an interesting character that we didn't get to see as much in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, and then Julie Louis-Dreyfus, who doesn't really miss at all.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, you did a good job of explaining that.
So that's my number 8. Adam, you're number 8.
My number 8, even though he had a movie this year that was on my list that I didn't love, I still have to put Yorgos in the list, and he has a new film. Yorgos Lanthimos has a new film called Begonia, and it's based.
Emma Stone in it?
Sorry?
Is Emma Stone in it?
Emma Stone is in it, and it's based. It's a remake of a South Korean sci-fi movie.
Ooh, okay.
It sounds really cool. I mean, other than it being a remake, there's not much out about it, but it's supposed to come out later this year. And yeah, Emma Stone is in it
and Jesse Plemons, Alicia Silverstone. I'm in.
Oh, Alicia Silverstone, yeah. So yeah, even though I didn't love Kinds of Kindness, every single other Yorgos film has been something that I really, really think is special. So I'm down to check out whatever he brings out.
Are we going to get the Alicia Silverstone Renaissance here?
Might.
That's after the Demi Moore one, though. So we got to hold. We got to hold her.
Emma Anderson is doing hers right now. So
that's true.
They're all there's a couple renaissances happening.
Nice
in tandem.
I'm excited for that.
Renaissance.
There you go.
There's
always one, right? We always have one. Dev, what's your number 8?
My number 8's Ballerina. Now that we've seen a trailer for it, the trailer looked fantastic, which was surprising because immediately after the trailer came out, everyone was like, "Yeah, the testing was dog shit, and they had to do reshoot half the movie."
Yeah,
and it was like, damn, I thought the trailer was relatively simple. You knew exactly which world you were set in. You knew exactly it answered kind of a lot of the questions that you needed to have answered. And I mean, I know that Ana de Armas has kind of been a little not as been as hot as she was when Ballerina was announced, but she was the best part of the last Bond movie.
Yep, not even close.
So if that's the case, just give me 2 hours of her doing her best Bond impersonation. Fine by me.
Plus, being back in that John Wick world is always good. I mean, you and I never saw the Continental show.
I did.
Oh, you did? Was it good?
I did on an airplane after, for a 18-hour travel day. Not recommended.
Not recommended. But that's what I'm excited for. Adam, you're number 7.
My number 7, sticking with movies, and sticking with, I guess now we can call Yorgos a legendary director, but we'll call this a current master and potentially the best working director currently, is Paul Thomas Anderson. And he has a new film called The Battle of Bacton Cross.
Yeah, mention for me as well.
You don't need to know anything about what it's about, and he keeps his plots sort of under wraps. But it doesn't really matter. All his films have been so drastically different, but the quality is still there, and it's something really, really interesting to check out. This one's got Leo, Sean Penn, Alana Haim from his last film, Licorice Pizza, Tiana Taylor, who I had in my breakout actress from last year, I think, and Benicio del Toro. So
that's
a pretty good cast, and his movies are always worth seeing on the big screen. He's an amazing auteur.
Yeah, PTA definitely number 1 right now, and the fact that he's finally getting to work with Leo is.
Has he never?
I don't think he's ever worked with Leo. No, could be wrong.
I'm trying to think.
Let's look it up right now.
I think you're right, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, Leo has basically only worked with Scorsese for the last
And then
80 years.
Inarritu, which is how he got his Oscar.
Phantom Thread, Inherent Vice, Master, Will Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Magnolia, Boogie Nights, Heartache. Nope.
No, not in any of those.
No.
Dang.
Yeah.
I saw Boogie Nights for the first time this year. Or I guess 2024.
That should have been your throwback pick.
Yeah.
Boogie Nights is amazing.
I was not disappointed. I watched Boogie Nights and Lebowski, I think, almost like back to back on a weekend.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm peaking. I will never get better than this.
Well, let's see how your number 7 is, Dev.
Okay. My number 7 is Tron Ares.
Nice. You're not worried about Jared Leto?
A
little bit.
You forgot.
No, I didn't
Not Jared
forget.
Leto was in it.
No, I didn't forget. It's one of those things where I'm like, is Jared Leto's addition to this film actually just going to be good for the story that Tron's trying to tell? I don't know anything about his character, or if he's going to be an AI or if he's going to be a real person in Tron. But like when I think of like Michael Sheen's performance in Tron Legacy, like if he did something along those lines, like it would fit right in. So it's not that weird to me. He's just insufferable in reality, right? And so it's like, do I really care? Like, because I'm not a guy who watches interviews or press junkets or award speeches. Like, I'd be pretty insulated from all of that stuff, from him being himself. So I just have to worry about his performance.
Trent Reznor doing the score too. That's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can you up Daft Punk? But
it's hard. Trent Reznor's is a nice follow up.
That's definitely like 1B if I were to pick like industrial synthesizer heavy, like other than maybe like Ludwig Van Gorenson or whatever who passed away.
Yeah. Number 7 for me, I did Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. These Mission Impossible movies just don't miss. They're just, you see that meme of absolute cinema. Like these are popcorn movies at their finest. I hope after this that we do get Cruise in like some quote unquote real movies again. Like let's see like the Risky Businesses and the Vanilla Skies and the
Why?
I want to see him like in an Oscar type of movie again, like a Jerry Maguire type.
Doesn't need to be.
No, it's done. It's over.
I want to see it, but
he thinks he can make a movie that can get him into an Oscar, and he never will. And it's done deal. Like he doesn't need to.
Well, aside from that, all these Mission Impossible movies, they don't miss. They're freaking awesome to watch. The stunts just keep on getting up to another level. Really excited for this one. The last one ended on a nice little cliffhanger. It kind of got hurt. I think it's, you're kind of seeing the Wicked changes as well. You're seeing these movies now don't do the part 1 anymore in the title if they're a 2-part film, because it does hurt them in the box office. And I think that part 1 hurt a little bit in the box office, but excited to see Ethan Hunt awkwardly run one more time.
Awkwardly run? He's like known for running. Also,
it's not Keanu.
Him closest to an Oscar was him doing Eyes Wide Shut.
Or Maguire.
Yeah. Probably Eyes Wide Shut.
From like an artistic standpoint, it's definitely Eyes Wide Shut. From the movie bait, it's definitely Maguire.
I watched that last year. I think I saw that last year for the first time, Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, it's a ride. Holy.
It's a ride, yeah. Number 6, I'll go here. My only Star Wars inclusion, I went to Andor, which might be the best show that Disney Plus currently has right now. We're going to kind of go a 5-year period up into the movie, which is one of the best movies that we've had. And hopefully that means we get to see K2SO, which I'm really hoping that's the case. But everything they did with Andor the first season was fantastic. As far as Emmy goes, definitely the most Emmy worthy of the shows. And it seems the way that Star Wars is going right now, you see this with Skeleton Crew, when they get away from the Jedi and the Skywalker side of things, they can tell a more fluid story. And everything they told with Andor the first season was so well done. and I have no doubt the season 2 will be told excellent as well. So I have Andor at number 6.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's man, I have so many thoughts about Star Wars because I'm so deeply invested, positively, negatively, sideways. Andor and by extension Rogue One are the closest that we've ever gotten post prequel trilogy back to the original feeling of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that hard to touch that magic again, but apparently for Disney, for Kathleen Kennedy, for Lucas, and for the rest of the group, apparently it's very hard to recreate the magic.
Yeah. So that's my number 6. Where's your number 6, Dev?
My number 6 is going to be F1.
Ooh, okay, it's on my honorable mention. I'm excited for this.
And you know what? Like, part of the reason why it's at number 6 and not at number 3 is because of the Apple influence.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like we watched Wolves over Christmas,
Yeah,
which was fine, but it also wasn't streaming only worthy. I don't know, Adam, did you see it?
yeah, I saw it.
Did you like it?
Nah, it just like was. It was like Ocean's 2.
It had potential. I think if you like, I could see exactly why executives, when they're doing the pitch meeting in the boardroom with these 2 stars attached, and there's a couple images involved, and they're in like nice turtlenecks, like I would totally be in. I lost all the momentum like the last third of the movie, but the first third was actually a really strong start in my opinion.
Yeah, it was okay, and it's like, you know why executives signed on this, because it was Clooney and Pitt. Like, it didn't matter what the movie was. They could just throw however much money at it. But it was just a little kind of dull.
Yeah,
for
paint
my
by numbers.
liking. But yeah, this F1, I mean, it's the guy who did Maverick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how to shoot action, obviously. In it's just turning the planes into space rocket cars.
Fine by me.
And that could be really cool to see on the big screen.
Absolutely.
It's a D-box movie. It's to our point earlier.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
D-Box movie.
D-Box
I
would be
hate
dope
D-Box,
for that.
but it's a
Yeah,
D-Box
that's all I
movie.
want is the D-box movie, and it's a perfect D-box movie.
What's
Yeah.
your 6, Adam?
My 6 is a pretty indie film that is premiering at Sundance in a couple weeks. It's called If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And it's by a director named Mary Bronstein. She is married to Ronald Bronstein, who is a writer and producer on all the Safdie brothers films and has been since the origin of them. She made a film called Yeast like 15 years ago. That was her only other film. It stars Greta Gerwig at like 18 and both the Safdie brothers as well. And so this one has Rose. So it's like her like 15-year follow-up. It's starring Rose Byrne in the main role. And you're going to like this. There's a couple, I don't know if they're cameos, if they're whatever, but it's got A$AP Rocky and Conan O'Brien. It's an A24 film. It sounds, the plot of it sounds kind of like maybe a less surreal female version of Beau is Afraid, of like a woman kind of like struggling with things and trying to like get out in the world.
Nice.
But it sounds really cool. It's A24, so it'll probably come out in the spring is my guess, if it's premiering at Sundance. So it sounds pretty cool. I'm excited.
I'm excited for anything with Rose Byrne in it. And the fact you have Conan in it, big year for Conan. Doing this, hosting the Oscars.
He's got it all.
Yeah. I like it. All right. Adam, we'll go right back to you for number 5.
Number 5, still movies, and I'm keeping it in a little bit indie territory and female director territory. Kristen Stewart is making her directorial debut, and she has been talking about this movie for a few years. She said she's going to stop acting until she finishes this movie. but she didn't have to really stop that long because she had a couple movies come out last year, and then now this looks like it's coming out this year. It's called The Chronology of Water. It's based on a memoir from someone else that somebody else wrote. I forget her name. Lydia Yuknavich. So it's based on this memoir, and I'm just excited to see what she can do as a director. I think she's chosen a really interesting path in terms of acting. Since Twilight, obviously. And she's gone down some interesting sort of rabbit holes. And so she's worked with a lot of people. She's worked with some really interesting directors. So I'm interested to see where she goes. It's already got French distribution, so I think it's going to be a bit more of like an art house film. And I have a feeling it'll probably premiere at Cannes, if I had to guess. So that'll be in May. But I'm excited to see what she does with it.
Absolutely. Dev, where'd you go for 5?
Well, kudos to both Kristen Stewart and Pattinson for not being typecast or one-note actors. Good, really happy for them. Also, I want it noted in the notes. 47 minutes until Adam brought up a Safdie.
Pretty good.
Crazy.
Yeah,
right?
pretty good. Yeah. Okay, my number 5. I'm going Thunderbolts.
Okay, that was my number 8. Do you want to speak on it, or we kind of said everything on it?
You touched on it. I'm excited for it because it really makes you feel like the olden days of MCU.
Number 5 for me is Wicked for Good. As everyone knows from the year in show, I loved Wicked. It just got robbed of the Golden Globes pretty harshly. But they've done a really good job of telling the story. It sounds like this is going to seep a lot more into also the Wizard of Oz as well in it. So I think when the first Wicked came out, there was a lot of like, okay, what is this? Because we just came off Cats as well, so people were a little bit leery of musicals at that point, especially ones interpreted from Broadway, and then it absolutely hit. I think it's already now at 800 million. So I don't think either of us saw that. I think coming from Wicked for that much. So this sequel has a chance to potentially be $1 billion movie with the anticipation of it coming out, and really, really excited for it. I was blown away by the first one and really excited to kind of see how everything kind of ends up. I've never seen the Broadway show. I have an idea from some people that have seen the Broadway show, some of the beats on it, but I don't want to have it spoiled too much. But interested to see how the story connects and wraps up for the Wicked franchise, if you will.
I think we know how the Wicked franchise will end, and I think
we don't. It's different. It's different than the Wizard of Oz.
No way. I thought it was I thought it was strictly a prequel. That's cool.
No, it's different. It's much different, I've been told.
I'm fine with that.
I still think they did a disservice by making this 2 movies. I think it's nobody needs it to be 6 hours long. And I think, especially from an award standpoint, I think it's just going to get nothing because everybody.
So the sequel?
Well, the first one, everybody was like, "Oh, this is just part 1, so nobody's going to vote for it." And then next year, everybody's going to be like, "This is just part 2, so nobody's going to vote for it." But if you made just a 3-hour strong movie and cut a bunch of this junk, it could have been a much more powerful and impactful film.
From my understanding, too, there's only 2 really good songs in this compared to a lot of the popular and What Is This Feeling and Defying Gravity were kind of the crescendo, the big ones in this one. So, but regardless, it's a franchise that really caught me off guard, and I'm excited to see it. Where are you already? We've all done 5s.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I'll fast forward to my number 4. Daredevil coming to Disney Plus. Really excited for this. Really nervous about this. Will Disney give? We saw what Daredevil was on Netflix, and they gave him his due, and it was gritty, and that what Daredevil needs to be. John Barenthal's back as the Punisher, which is exciting, but will he be the full Punisher? We know what they did in Deadpool, and they weren't afraid to have cursing and and the gore there, but Deadpool's one thing. Daredevil's an entirely different level. So how far are they going to let Daredevil stretch? But, you know, I thought the storytelling for Agatha was really good. I trust that everything with this will be good. Charlie Cox is back. I think this has a chance to be really, really special and really, really good. And maybe the best thing that Marvel puts out this year. So I'm really excited for it.
I did not have that on my list, although I am, to your point, like I am kind of tangentially interested in it.
Yeah.
Big Barenthal fan. Also, every police officer in the whole world is just going to be so jazzed to see the Punisher on film, killing police officers. That's just me, though. Whoops! Like, guess we didn't know that was coming.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right in terms of like, does this character need to be reinvented, or has Charlie Cox already kind of given us what we have been looking for?
I think he kind of knows. I didn't like the direction of the Kingpin and Echo, so we'll see how that goes. Denario has a great grasp on the Kingpin as well. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. Dev, where'd you go for 4?
I went with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound.
Hey.
Yeah, big fan of the franchise. Yeah, it's a new game. It's a 2D
Ooh.
side scroller, just like the olden days.
Looking this up right now.
Yeah, I have a Ninja Gaiden shirt I should have worn for the purposes of the show, but I've really pivoted away from what gets me going in video games is no longer pushing limits and technological innovation and things like that, because I think we're really kind of plateaued until something crazy happens. But just really like back to fundamentals and things done really well. And Ninja Gaiden's a classic for a reason. I don't see any reason why this is going to be different. And there's a reason why 2D platformers, side scrollers, beat 'em ups, hack and slashes just stand the test of time. It's because they're fun as hell.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard as shit, probably.
Probably. Would have it any other way. Adam, where'd you go for number 4?
I'm excited for this Ninja Gaiden game. I'm watching.
The trailer looks amazing.
It looks sick.
Yes.
I'm going to change. No, I'm not going to change my picks. But that's cool. Good pick.
Thank you.
I'm sticking with movies, and I'm going with a director who has now proven himself 3 times, I think, to be someone to really think about, and it's Ari Aster, and he has a new film called Eddington.
Ooh, okay.
And he's bumped up my list a little bit. From like I liked Midsummer, I liked Hereditary. They're both pretty good. Sorry?
You love Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. And then like it was the same time that Jordan Peele was doing Get Out and Us, and Robert Eggers was doing Witch and Northman.
Solid cast.
And they all kind of continued along their path, but Ari Aster jumped from what he did with Midsummer and Hereditary and did something completely different. And I really like that. So I'm excited to see what he does. Yeah, it's got Joaquin again, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone,
Austin Butler. Used to be a Western, eh?
Yeah, it's like a dark comedy Western, I think.
Okay, I'm in. We need more Westerns.
I'm interested in this. I hope, I don't know when it'll come out. I wonder when it'll get released, but I hope it comes out this year. It should be 2025. But I'm excited to see what Ari does next.
Let's go. Top 3. Devan.
Oof. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, go. Just kidding. Number 3, The Bear season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love the fact that the show is self-confident. I love the fact that the show is going to tell you its story without compromise, regardless if it hits the notes that it had in previous seasons. And I think season 3 was criminally underrated for a show that won a lot of awards.
Yeah,
which is kind of an oxymoron. I think people really got sucked into the whole idea of media having to give you exactly what you think it should be. and not have change and not have growth. And like the show got funnier for a show that's like supposed to be a comedy, but really isn't. The show did get funnier. The show got more serious, and the show tackled way more topics. So just we got more all around. I don't see why season 4 would be any different.
I still don't agree with it being a binge because I think it's a show that sits with you and lingers with you. And I do, yeah, you can separate it and everything like that, which I did, but I do think it's better to have it an episode a week because it's the type of show to digest. Like it took me about a month afterwards, but all right, that was a really good season. Whereas, even taking 2 days in between episodes still didn't hit the right way I wanted it to, but excited for all the beats that they laid for where season 4 could go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I forgot this was coming out this year, so I'm going to put it in my honorable mentions because I love The Bear season 3, just like you, Dev.
Where'd you go for 3, Adam?
Number 3, I went to television as well, and it'd be no surprise if I didn't put this on here, but it's The Rehearsal season 2.
There's another season?
There's a second season of The Rehearsal. I don't know what Nathan Fielder has been up to for the last year or so doing this, but I'm really excited to see where it goes. The Rehearsal season 1, and in fact, episode 1 might be like one of the best episodes of television ever made.
Yeah.
But that season is like amazing. I thought it was a one and done. I didn't realize he was going to continue down this path with it, but why not? It's such a wide open sort of concept that you could extrapolate it into so many different spaces. So I'm excited to see where he goes with this.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because one of the things with like The Rehearsal, like I know that it wasn't the most popular show in the whole world, but like eventually at some point in time, do you think that when people start seeing Nathan Fielder, they're just going to be like, okay, something's up, like, and like the whole idea will kind of ruin itself?
Didn't we get that with Sacha Baron Cohen though? And it
that's my next point with Borat.
I mean, maybe, but he's like, all the people know that they're in. Like, he's not like tricking people, right? He's not like convincing. He's not like man on the street. Like he was in Nathan For You a little bit, but still, he was like, "Hey, do you want to be on a TV show? We're gonna bring you in on this." And they're like, "Okay." And then he like plays with that whole idea. He blends that really well. So I don't think he has to. And yeah, he's not that famous. Like he is in certain circles, but I don't think most, like your average person doesn't have any idea who this guy is.
Our parents wouldn't recognize him if they showed up on one of his shows.
No. Yeah, you're right.
No chance. My number 3 went to TV. I have TV for 2 of my last 3 here. I went with Severance. First season was really, really good. Left you on a pretty big cliffhanger. And now we kind of get to kind of see I think the only part about Severance is that it took almost too long of a gap, kind of falls into a little bit of a gap there. So I'm glad it is back and kind of to see where everything's going with this world. There's a lot of interesting pieces you can go with the back and forth. Apple did on New Year's, they put out the first 8 minutes, which I didn't bother watching. I'm like, why am I going to watch the first 8 minutes of this? I'll just watch the full show. And I'm hoping for, I like the mystery and everything to it. I'm interested for season 3 here.
I thought about putting it on my list, but because it's coming out in like 10 days.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I have to be anticipatory about? But it would be like if it was coming out in March, it'd be on my list.
Yeah.
Number 2. I'm still a little lukewarm on this show. I liked it, but I'm still not sure where it's gonna go. Like if I'm that interested, if it goes in a direction I don't like. Yeah. Because the mystery is what it's all about. Yes. But this might be the best thing that Ben Stiller has done in decades. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Especially after what he put out last year.
I actually think his directing's probably directing's solid. But you're right. Like my biggest fear about this show, like any other breakout show, a la Prison Break, is going to be, will I give a shit once the veil's been lifted?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know what it could do that would keep me hooked. Like what the answer is. whatever the answer is going to be a disappointment. I feel.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit
maybe.
concerned.
There's a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those shows that, you know, Apple was only, there was a thing, Apple's only in like 11% of American households, which I was shocked by that number. And Apple puts out a lot of really good shows. And this kind of seems like one of those shows that people were like, hey, have you seen Severance? Have you seen Severance? So it does seem like one of those shows that is getting pushed on the platform really hard. So there's obviously a lot to live up to with that side of things.
Well, it's got to be their second or third most popular show, right?
Yeah, Lasso was one, obviously.
Lasso shrinking Severance,
Yeah.
or in some way,
Silo.
obviously
Silo's
Lasso.
up there, obviously.
Yeah.
Don't watch it, but I know Silo's pretty popular.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Top two, I'll go here. I went back and forth here. I talked to Devan about this movie. I am so excited, but so scared. I went with Superman because I think James Gunn is a terrific director and a writer, but I've never seen him tackle a character like this. And if I have one more person tell me that Superman's fucking about hope, I'm going to punch a wall. I'm so sick of, after seeing the trailer, I was very lukewarm on. And so many people like, but Josh, you don't understand. Superman's about hope. I'm like, I fucking know Superman's about hope. I understand. I don't really see the actor too much as Superman. I was really excited to see Crypto. I think I like the idea that we're just going into the world and that the Mr. Terrific character looks good. Shouts to Nathan Fillion rocking the Guy Gardner comic accurate haircut. Hawkgirl looks dope. So I'm excited that we're getting to go in this world of DC and the metahumans and the characters are already alive. I like Rachel as Lois Lane. I think she's perfect. I need to see James Gunn not write just comedy, which he's good at, and writing these great character arcs. I mean, on Creature Commandos, he's done some. He wrote one episode that legit made me cry. The storytelling was so fantastic. But he's really good, and he did it in Guardians 3 as well.
Yes, there you go. Proof.
So, but can he do it for a singular character like Superman? And Superman has been really since and they wanted to hit that Richard Donner feel in this trailer. They even had the score from the Richard Donner side, but no one has fully gotten Superman right since those Richard Donner, as far as film. Smallville did a good job. Lois and Clark that just wrapped up did a good job at telling the story of Superman. But as far as on film, Snyder never got the idea of what Superman really was at times. He struggled with the idea of what Superman was. And Superman means a lot to me. So I'm hoping that he can stick the landing here. This is more indicative of what Superman means to me more than the anticipation of the film, because like I said, I was very lukewarm on the trailer.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go, Adam?
You go. Can I do my last two together?
Well, I meant like, do you want to talk about Superman at all?
Oh, I'm not talking about Superman. I talk about James Gunn because I think he's really interesting. I could really care less about Superman, to be honest. Like, how many times have we done this? I don't really care. But James Gunn is someone that can sort of squeeze juice from a stone, I guess. He is a really good writer. And he's just a nerd. Like he grew up in the trauma sort of battleground of making like Z grade movies with Lloyd Kaufman, and then has elevated to where he wants to be, which is obviously being in the comic book big budget universe. And he's done really well with what he's got, so I'm sure he can do okay with it. Whether it lives up to the sort of like mythic lore standards that Josh is talking about, I'm unsure of, but I think it'll be at least something interesting.
I don't see why he wouldn't be able to tackle Superman with compassion and grace. He basically rubbed two pennies together to make friggin' Guardians of the Galaxy work, and I'd say that he gave basically a bunch of D-list characters some pretty touching moments, all things considered, through three movies. And Superman is probably the ultimate superhero.
Would you say Groot is a household name now because of him?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to his credit, like Superman is multifaceted. To Zack Snyder's credit, I think Zack Snyder played to Zack Snyder's strengths with Superman, and we finally got a Superman who, like, yeah, I think he missed the mark on some of the characterization, but in terms of the physical being of Superman and the actual like physical power of such a being was done perfect.
Yeah.
I have no issues with Zack Snyder's Superman interpretation, really. So I don't think there's really any reason to have cause for concern. But I do agree with you. The trailer was like very like 7 out of 10, lukewarmish. I'm happy we're skipping origin stories. I'm happy we're just jumping into it. And if all goes well, we're going to have a lot of questions as to how the universe is working, which he'll answer through storytelling, whether it be visual or written or oral.
Yeah. Dev, what's your number 2?
I want to know where Lloyd Kaufman is the cameo in Superman, because he's been in every James Gunn movie since he broke out. So
same with Michael Rooker.
That's true. Lloyd. Oh yeah, okay, I know who Lloyd Kaufman is. He's a Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, he's like runs that studio. He's yeah, but he's been in all the Guardian movies. He's been in like everything he's done. So.
Okay, my number 2, Andor season 2. We already briefly mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's A+ level talent given the keys to an A+ level franchise, and it's theirs to do with as they please. And basically, that means they have unlimited potential to go up and unlimited potential to go down. But given Andor season 1 and Rogue One, I trust them.
Absolutely. Before we get to Adam, did you want to do the thing after when we do our number 2 and then we'll do our honorable mentions before 1?
When don't we do our honorable mentions now, and then I'll finish off.
Okay. I'll go really quickly in a few ones. One I wanted to get on here and I just couldn't get on was Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. I had that in a slashy with Maggie Gyllenhaal's Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Because they both have Frankenstein era movies. Kind of.
The cast for Frankenstein is stacked too. Have you seen the cast for it?
I know Jacob Elordi.
Where is it on here?
Isn't it Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein?
I think Jacob Elordi is Frankenstein. But I mean, just like, I'll never forget that Oscars when he won for Shape of Water. Like, I like monsters. And I was like, okay, anything that he does. I still want him to do Justice League Dark. That's my dream project for him. But
Oscar Isaac is Frankenstein. And
Oscar Isaac is Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah, and he's the monster.
We have Maya Goff in it. Christoph Waltz is in it. Jacob Elordi's in it. David Bradley's in it. Lars Mikkelsen is in it. So pretty decent cast. So excited for that. Beef season 2. I don't know if it can live up to what season 1 was, but excited for that. Happy Gilmore 2 is probably going to be terrible, but I'll be excited for it still. The Alien TV show could be really good.
Oh, yeah.
Excited for that. Squid Game season 3. I think season 2 was had a lot to live up to. Did good. Stranger Things, sure. Let it finish. Why not?
You sound so excited about that. Please, just let it die.
It'll become, but it's just like, it's just the gap. We talk about gaps. Like, if there wasn't as much of a gap, I'd be way more excited for it, but it's fine. Another one that almost made my list, Running Man.
Oh,
with I think could be really, really good. The cast, I'm excited for the cast. Lilo and Stitch, just missed out on it, but I'm sure we'll talk about it more with the box office. Potential $1 billion movie. Sinners, the Michael B. Jordan movie, the vampire movie that looks pretty decent. So those were a few from me. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I didn't have any of those. Spike Lee has a new movie, Highest to Lowest, with Denzel. That's based on or a remake of Kurosawa's High and Low, which is one of the best more modern Kurosawa movie, like non-samurai movies. So I'm interested what he does, but he has a pretty not a great track record with remaking Asian cinema masterpieces with Old Boy. So we'll see. The Wedding Banquet is a remake of an Ang Lee movie by Andrew Ahn, who did Fire Island and Driveways, starring Bowen Yang and Lily Gladstone. Should be pretty awesome. I think it's at Sundance. Do you guys know who Kid Koala is?
No.
Yes.
He's a Canadian musician, like really unique, really interesting, electronic kind of. He does really, really cool stuff. But he's also a book writer, animator, and he made his first feature film. It's called Space Cadet, and it's playing at Berlin this year.
Nice.
That's really cool. Vince Gilligan has a new show,
Oh.
Breaking Bad guy. It's untitled yet, but it stars Rhea Seehorn, who played
dope.
Kim, and it's on Apple.
Nice.
Michelle Gondry is doing a musical called Golden with all the music written by Pharrell. Which should be crazy. Die My Love, that's the Lynn Ramsey, Robert Pattinson, Jennifer Lawrence movie that was shot in Calgary. So got to have that somewhere on the list.
It's also got Jermaine J.C. Cummins in it, too.
Jermaine J.C. Cummings. And then last but not least, the guys who did Talk to Me, the Australian duo, they have a follow-up called Bring Her Back. And it seems to be set in the same world as Talk to Me, whether it's a sequel or not. It sounds pretty cool. Those are my honorable mentions.
Dope. Dev?
Yeah, I'll run through them really quick. The Studio, which we mentioned, Superman, which we mentioned. 28 years later.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a great gimmick that they actually kind of turned out like at the right time. Awesome.
This is all shot on an iPhone too, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
The Color Within, which is an anime from the creator of someone who did A Silent Voice, which is really a really powerful movie. Kaiju number 8, the second half of the first season comes out. So I didn't really count that because it's the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. And then whatever you guys have added that like kind of jogged my memory.
And then I should add to like, I think at least me and Adam probably would have put GTA on there, but we just don't foresee that coming out.
Doesn't count. Doesn't matter. If it
And
comes
then-
I
out,
probably won't even buy it, to be honest. Like,
GTA is one I always God of War and GTA I'll buy forever and ever.
yeah, I've never bought a GTA. I remember playing with my cousin or watching my cousin and watching friends play, and just like wasn't really interested in people just kind of screwing around.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about any of the games until kind of looking into it much later.
Just give me Red Dead 3. I'm more interested in that.
Yeah.
Personally. And then I also had Judas, the Ken Levine creator of BioShock, but I just don't
Put it on
believe
again. We're like
I
on
don't
year
believe it.
5.
I don't believe it's coming out. All right, Adam, you wanted to do it too first, so go
All
for it.
right, top 2. We went 47 minutes without me talking about the Safdie Bros.
Yeah.
Just so we could finish strong. Number 2 is The Smashing Machine.
Yes!
Directed by Benny Safdie,
That's
starring
on my
Dwayne
mention
The Rock
too. That should be
Johnson, Emily Blunt. This is coming out later in the year. My guess is like a TIFF or a Venice, maybe. I think it's going to be a little push for award season. It's based on an MMA. It's a biopic based on an MMA fighter named Mark Kerr, I think.
Yeah.
I know very little about him, and I don't really want to look into it until I see the film. But yeah, early discussion said The Rock is doing like the best work he's ever done. Benny's first time as a solo director. Should be really interesting to see what he does. So I'm really excited for this Smashing Machine one. It sounds
This
really
is really big for Dwayne Johnson because he, after Red One, and he's kind of at a downward side of things right now. He really needs it. So he'll have Moana, the live action this year, which will be a hit, obviously. But I think he really needs to start having defined characters, and he hasn't had that. And, Dave Bautista has jumped so far ahead of him and taken shots of him of not being a dramatic actor and not being a good actor. So this is a big opportunity for Dwayne Johnson to really land his mark, to say I'm a good actor and I have a bona fide character, and for the Safdies to kind of show what they have as well.
Yeah, and so Benny, I think I think if anyone can make The Rock look good, it's going to be a film like this. If it's anything in during the split, if they end up doing similar styled films to what they did before, I think The Rock could fit in well if he just plays himself. Like, he doesn't have to do much in these films, and it can be pretty powerful. So, and then number one is Marty Supreme. It's the Josh Safdie
There you go.
film that he's doing that's coming out on Christmas Day. Also a biopic, kind of crazy, about this guy who was a famous ping pong player. It's Timothy Chalamet who is playing.
Tyler the Creator.
What?
Tyler the Creator's in this.
Yeah, insane cast. Tyler the Creator, Penn Jillette, Kevin
what?
O'Leary.
Amazing.
Kevin O'Leary from Dragon's Den.
This is amazing.
Yeah, Fran Drescher.
Okay, now another renaissance.
Abel Ferreira, the amazing filmmaker. This is like a
Bernhard.
New York movie through and through, and the Safdies are like New York kids.
Yeah.
And this is why I went back and forth between 1 and 2 on this, and I think that Josh might end up having the better career as a director, making the better films, whether he gets the accolades or the box office to follow, because he's kept in the divorce of the Safdie brothers. Ronald Bronstein, who I talked about earlier, his wife is making that other film. He is helping Josh write and produce his film. So he won Ronald Bronstein in the divorce. So I think that's going to be a big help to getting him across. This is also apparently they were shopping it around, I think, last year, trying to get the final finishing funds for it. And this is the most expensive A24 movie that they've ever made. And it's a seemingly small biopic about a ping pong player. So why this needs that much money for a budget is kind of crazy. But I'm excited to see what it does. I'm excited to see both of these films coming out at the end of the year, going toe to toe. And it's just better for everyone that now there's potentially 2 Safdie brothers movies every year.
Amazing. Wouldn't have it any other way for an Adam list. I am thinking Devin and I might have the same number one potentially here. No, because if not, then you have one that was on your own. I mentioned that I'm a little shocked by. So, Dev, you go with your number one.
Okay. One Punch Man, season 3.
Oh wow!
It's been a 6-year wait. 10 years since the first season came out, and we've had 24 episodes. And it's just a show that knows exactly what it is. It's completely ridiculous in the best way possible, and just a lot of fun. Makes me happy.
Sweet. Great pick.
What's the premise of this show?
This is an anime.
Yeah,
okay?
I know that.
So,
I've seen the picture.
Okay. He's literally a normal guy who trained really hard for like 2 years, and now he can beat every single opponent he's ever faced with one punch.
Okay.
It's just literally all the fights come down to one, like he just punches someone one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
it. Now there's like a whole world of like other heroes and stuff like that. So when he started being a hero with his fantastic strength, he's not the smartest guy in the room. He was ranked initially very, very low and was given very, very bad hero assignments, and now he's just been shooting up the hero rankings, if you will.
Okay, interesting.
Because he's just unstoppable. He's a One Punch Man.
That sounds quite ridiculous.
And you know what the funny thing is too is like the show is ridiculous. It's very funny. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
My number one was The Last of Us season 2. I'm surprised I didn't make your top 10, Dev.
It's one of those things where like I saw it on a list, and I think you just sent me the the confirmation that was coming out this year, so it just kind of slipped by radar. Like the lists I've looked at didn't have it, so it would be on my list. It'd probably
It can't be on anyone's list because they didn't film it in Calgary. So screw this show.
I'm so excited because I think the second game is a better story.
Easily.
I feel already really bad for the actress that's playing Abby. It's going to be probably rough for her because of what happened with the game. So hopefully people can be more civil than they were to Lauren Bailey because she got treated like absolute dog shit and it was really unfair.
She knows what she's getting into, though. That's the worst.
Yeah. But it sounds like too, like this will be split into two parts as well. They will kind of, I don't want to spoil too much, but they'll go into two parts for this. And I'm very excited. There's friends I know that won't watch the second game or play the second game because they want to know what happens. And for us to know that what happens, it's going to be very interesting discussions after certain parts of the story. So I'm excited to kind of see everything goes. They just dropped a trailer last night, kind of getting the vibes of the subway scene and adding that intensity there, showing Abby in the hospital after Ellie is taken away. The first season was really, really well done. Like Adam said, it's unfortunate it wasn't shot in Calgary, but with the majority of this shot in the second season taking place in Seattle, it makes sense. You understand why they had to go and move it to BC. So everything with the first season was really well done. And I think the second season, especially with the storytelling that we get, is going to be right up there as well.
I think part of the reason why I didn't think of this show right away has nothing to do with the level of quality or the storytelling or anything to do with the end product. I think it's because I'm already so acutely aware of the story from the game. It feels like I'm playing it a second time or watching it a second time. So I know, like, what truly impressed me having watched season 1 was the Bill and Frank episode.
Yeah.
Far and above beyond everything else. Even though the show is really, really good, that one will always stand out to me because it was something I wasn't expecting. And the show, in order to, like, it's going to live up to the hype. It's going to be a great season 2. I just want there to be a few more moments where I feel the way I did after watching that episode.
Absolutely. And I would assume we'll have something on that level there. So there we go. That is the most anticipated. Now we just wait to see what gets bumped off my list because that's always the case. Happens on these things. So, I think it's a good year. I think everyone, as always, had a solid list. Adam, I always look forward to Adam's list because there's movies that I had probably heard of but hadn't heard of, but that I know will be. It's funny with Adam's movies; those are the movies I'm going to be talking about more by year end than the movies that I'm most anticipated for. I always do find that.
Yeah, sometimes. You're going to be talking about Smashing Machine, whether you liked it or not.
Oh, 100%. I'm actually mad. I probably would have had that on there. I actually just forgot about it.
Never forget.
I probably would have had it on my list. I probably would have replaced that with Mission Impossible, to be honest.
Never forget.
Yeah. Because I think, for Dwayne, we saw Dwayne last night. We didn't see The Rock last night. For those that watch Raw, Dwayne showed up on Monday Night Raw last night, not The Rock. He really, really needs this to kind of get to that next level of everything. So, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam?
More softies in 2025.
There you go. Any other last thoughts, Dev?
No, I loved everyone's list.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will have the final kind of part of our preview. We'll have the box office draft. Adam won last year. We'll see if he can repeat next year. So we'll do the box office draft next week. And then after that, Devan and I will get back to normal episodes of the rundown. But box office draft is next week. Until then, folks, cheers. Enjoy the day.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh Take Network. Follow us on social media platforms at Fresh Take 42.